Welcome to Youth Sports Mastery on the Daily Parks and Rec Show, hosted by Aaron Locks and sponsored by National Academy of Athletics. Join us live every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as Aaron sits down with coaches, recreation professionals, and industry leaders to discuss youth sports, athlete development, coaching excellence, and the positive impact sports have on young people and communities. Tune in for expert insights, inspiring stories, and practical strategies to help young athletes succeed. In this episode, host Aaron Locks chats with Denver area sports facility manager Adam Hamm about transitioning from education to parks and recreation. They explore how youth sports build leadership, the necessity of letting kids fail to grow, and the importance of coach empathy.
Welcome everybody to the Youth Sports Mastery Show. Adam, every time I see that intro, I'm like, wow, this is coming along, huh? It's kind of a cool thing. So we're getting there. Hey, I want to introduce Adam Hamm. Hey, first of all, thank you for coming on and your patience and empathy working through everything. And I'm looking forward to have you introduce yourself in a second. I do want to just kind of give a shout out to Craig and the team. And also we have a new production manager today, so we're going to see how we navigate through the waters. But so far so good. We're on the air and you guys can see us, so we must be doing something right? For sure, as we go forward. So what I like to do every week, we talk everything youth sports. We do our best to try to engage, whether you're a parks and recreation professional, in school, parent volunteer, parent, coach, whatever it is. We try to do our best to bring to you something that is engaging and maybe a little entertaining, right? Informative about what's going on in the youth sports space. And this week, we're blessed to get Adam to join us. Adam, how are you? And can you give us a quick little breakdown? I know you got a real long resume, so just kind of tell us who you are and what's happening.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you having me on the show. It's a pleasure. Let's see, I've grown up in the Denver area for over the last 30 years. I moved here when I was about 9. I played youth baseball growing up through high school. Baseball is kind of really the only sport I gravitated towards. But it was a big part of my childhood. I have a lot of good core memories with it. As I progressed through my adulthood, I worked in the education field in my 20s. Really gave me a good foundation for how I assess the community aspect of contributing back. But then I pivoted in my early 30s to Parks and Rec. And I kind of took a lot of what I learned from my time in education, and transitioned to working in Parks and Rec when I was like 30, 31. So not the traditional path that some people have, but I'm definitely thankful for the choices I've made, and it's led me all to here.
You know, it's funny, and I love the fact with the educational background, it's so important because obviously when we're working in Parks and Recreation, I consider myself a Parks and Rec professional as you are, that we're literally teaching all the time, right? Whether you're teaching your staff and leadership skills and all those coming up. When you're growing up, you said you played baseball. Was there a favorite position you played, or were you like me, you kind of played a little bit of everything? And then for me, they just stuck me behind the dish because I couldn't run around to all that. They said, here, you be a catcher. So that's what they did for me.
I primarily played outfield and third base. Third base was really my favorite position. I played that through middle school, but then as I got into high school, I kind of, the other talent out there, so I transitioned to outfield because unfortunately, I didn't have the arm strength to compete with other people at third base. But through middle school, third base was my position, and it's still my favorite position in baseball in the majors. So my favorite baseball players are at third base. I'm still a little resentful towards the Rockies. They traded away Nolan Arenado a couple years back, so I'm still salty about that. But unfortunately, the Rockies franchise not the best about that.
I'm salty about it too because I'm a Giants fan. By the way, we're playing you guys this weekend, so let's see how this wraps up. But we just got Arenado kicking our butt around the fields the last couple of days too. So yeah, go somewhere else, would you? My goodness, yeah, he's a hell of a player. I love third base as well. The Giants have been. I went to my first Giants game in 1972.
Oh wow!
Nice. My baseball coach took me there back in the day, so I've been a Giants fan a long time. It just means I'm. With all this gray hair, I'm getting kind of.
Hey, I got the gray hair coming in too. So
you got it going on. I'll tell you, I'm jealous of the beard. I don't think I could grow that if I had a lifetime to do it. So good on you for doing that. So, okay. So when most people think about Parks and Recreation, right? There's all different areas that you can be involved. And I always think about kind of what gets us there. And you kind of explained you went into the education and kind of component, and you kind of leaned into park. So what do you think drew you to Parks and Rec, just from wait a second, I'm doing this and now I want to do this? What is there something that was like an aha moment or light went on, or what kind of navigated you that direction?
I think the big proponent for me was, as working in education, I was working with the youth. And unfortunately, I got burnt out working in education. There was definitely a shift 10 years ago, and I kind of decided that I had put in what I thought I could give, and I was working in Parks and Rec part time, and full time position became available, and kind of I umpired and went to the site supervisor in my 20s while I was working in education, and I kind of just fell in place, and it kind of just I still get to serve. I still get to serve the community in a different capacity. I do miss the proponent of working with students on a regular basis, but that's a driving force, is being able to give back to the community.
Yeah, I bet for sure. It's funny. There is a lot of so what I'm looking for here, the best way to say it. There's a lot of opportunity when people look and change. I don't know how to explain it. You know what I mean? As they go forward with it. But I am really loving watching how many people are coming into the Parks and Rec space as well. You know what I mean? I think there's some goodness with that too. So it's a good balance that's going on. Did you feel like when you made the move that it was an easy move, or did you feel like it was a major transition in your life, or what did you think?
Uh, yeah, I think it was a little bit. I think it was a little bit of both. The transition, it was definitely, working in education is definitely a very like rigid schedule, like very like 7:30 to like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But transitioning, I think the biggest thing was just in my it's always the flexibility of the hours. Sometimes early mornings, late nights, weekends, and stuff. So it's kind of there's a lot of grind in the Parks and Rec field, depending on which area you choose, whether it be aquatics, facility management, sports. It depends. But I think I think just the flexibility, not having a regimented schedule, was probably the biggest change for me.
Yeah, yeah. The it's funny because I think the perception is, which is interesting. The perception of teachers is you work 9 months and you get done early, and then you get to go do whatever, and you get all summers off, and it ain't like that, right? And then, not to mention the parents and all the other factors you got to deal with, and society has changed. I got to meet Tom Selleck, and he was talking about accountability and how there's a lack of accountability as one of the American pillars that's challenging right now, especially with youth. And it was interesting because we were talking about 1955. There was a New Yorker magazine, and there was a picture of a kid that had an F on their paper, and the kid was sitting at the desk, and the parent and the teacher were pointing at the student. Right. Fast forward to 2025. There's still that F on the paper, but the student and the parent are pointing at the teacher. So that's got to make it pretty challenging, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I think I saw a little bit of both, a little bit of both of that. Like I remember that in school. So I ended up working for the same public school system that I went to for like 8 years. So it's definitely interesting to see the dynamic shift in that from the '90s to the 2000s and the 2010s. So I definitely witnessed the transition for that. And it was definitely interesting.
What's interesting to me about that is I think of the lessons we learned as a youth, as a kid, we carry forward into what we do in life, right? I mean, let's be honest. And the ability to, I just gave a talk not too long ago to some parents that they're going to be coaching kids, right? They're parent volunteers. And I said, how many of you are excited for your kid to suck this season, to fail? Right? And they looked at me like I was nuts, But realistically, isn't that what it's about, right, Adam? Part of the deal is embrace the suck, let them fail, because that's how they learn to grow forward, right?
I really enjoy that. I really like that perspective. It's true. I think obviously every parent wants their kid to succeed in sports and stuff, but sometimes I think it gets lost that they want their kid to be like the next LeBron James or Michael Jordan or Babe Ruth and stuff. But and realistically, that's not the case. It's 0.0001% odds of that happening. So I think,
Right.
yeah, that's a great way to put it. Get ready for your kid to suck. So, and I've got a 4-year-old and a 9-year-old, and I will tell you, t-ball with 4-year-olds is tough to. It's tough to push. It's tough to push through.
I met with Major League Baseball maybe 10, 15 years ago, and I said, would you stop trying to have kids play baseball at 4 and 5 years old? Wait till they're 7, 8, or 9. Then at least the sport becomes fun. Right.
Yes.
If not, you stand there and you hope. And even if your kid can throw the ball to the right person, the other kid's, afraid to get hit by it. I mean, but anyways, yeah, I'll get off that soapbox for a minute. But is there one or two, I think for me, lessons I love carrying forward in the lessons that we learn? John Wooden talked about be quick, but don't hurry, right? So when we used to run his camps and we were teaching kids, we're talking about, everything from balance and not rushing, right? Being prepared, all those different factors. Is there something you would say? Is there an atomism that you carry with you that you do as you manage people and you do what you do on a daily basis that maybe you learned from a coach or learned through your youth sports experience from way back in the day?
I would say probably. I think the biggest thing that I remember I had a few baseball coaches, but was just showing empathy towards your players and everyone in your life, because I think it really, you don't know what other people are going through. There may be one of your colleagues may be having a bad day, one of your teammates be having a bad day, and you don't know what's going on in their life that may be impacting how they're playing. They may be the best player on the team, but just one day they just it's a complete opposite. So I think of having, instead of being judgmental and being judgmental towards that person, like, oh man, you cost us the game. It's really like, hey, what's going on? Like, this isn't like you. You're not playing the way you usually do. Obviously, everyone has a bad day, but sometimes you just having that empathy towards people I think goes a long way.
I would agree with that for sure. And it's funny because I think, we want, I'm a grandpa now, right? I got a almost 4-year-old granddaughter and 1-year-old grandson out in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I remember when my kids were playing, we want our kids to be successful. Nothing wrong with that. But watching them figure things out on their own,
Yes.
There's a joy that comes with that, right?
Yes, definitely. As a parent, it can be hard. You want to, the knee-jerk reaction is to like step in, but success doesn't come without failure. You can't be successful without failing a few times along the way. And I think that's huge, and I think that's a very big lesson that maybe sometimes is lost in youth sports. Obviously, winning is great, and everyone likes the feeling, but every great athlete had failure along the way that shaped them as a player, and that can be in any aspect of life. You got to succeed. You got to fail before you can succeed.
Yeah, and I think the ability, one of the things that my coaches taught me was to be able to find the success within the failure. My mom used to say, to the point where I'd want to kick her in the shins, give me the answer sometime. But, what's the lesson? She always asked, never judged, what's the lesson? And then you have to figure it out for yourself. And I'm like, oh, but it did develop that critical thinking component, which, getting back to the empathy piece, I think what I loved is if your child plays multiple sports, let's be honest, some sports they're going to be a leader, some sports are going to be not as good, some sport, right? And then they learn leadership top down, they learn to be led, they learn empathy, they learn patience, they learn frustration, they learn, all these different factors. And I really believe that's what creates. I had Jim Perry on a while back. He used to be the director of the Superstar Invitation of Basketball. And one of the things that I love that he said is that, our real goal in this whole thing is to create good citizens, right?
That's 100% true. I think sports. I think participating in sports, whether a kid is excellent at it or just average, kind of correlates to teaching them invaluable lessons that they probably wouldn't have learned otherwise.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. And it's funny too, because to me, I don't think there's any better life skill teaching tool than youth sports, right? I feel like that's the best. Now, again, I'm a sports guy, so right. I also feel that there's something to be learned about skiing and then playing basketball, and then the next season, whatever it is, piano, whatever it is, just different life experiences that bring this thing together, right? But getting back to the thread on failure, I'm going to pull on a little bit more because I've failed so much, and like I could write a book on failure, right? but if you think about it, the best in the world. I told the story before about Willie Mays. There was a talk that he gave that my coach taught me when that first time I played, and Willie Mays got out 7 out of 10 times. At the time, he was the best on the planet Earth at the game. He got out 7 out of 10 times. That failed 70% of the time. And by the way, not only did he fail 70% of times, half the times he got out was via strikeout, which is the epic fail, right? I mean, you can't even hit the ball. So if you think about that, like my coach said to me, why do you think you're better than Willie Mays your first time playing, right? Yeah. So when you think about that, you manage people, you manage kids. How are you using failure in your lessons? Because obviously, hey, we got goals. I got to imagine you got a manager that said, hit your goal, fill up the facility, make this happen, and yet we're going to fail. So how are you navigating through that? Because I think right now we're dealing with a lot of failure in society. We're dealing with a lot of failure across the board. And if we can help people get maybe tools to help deal with failure, right, that can be helpful.
Yeah, I think going through the failure maybe lets you critically analyze on why you failed and how to change that to ensure that you're not a failure. I think a good analogy is like entrepreneurship, for instance. Most entrepreneurs will tell you I had 4 or 5 failing businesses before I hit gold with my current business. They wouldn't have learned all of the stuff that led to their current success, and they approached every failure like, okay, what can I take from this failure and use it to hopefully be successful the next time. Obviously, at different parts of life, you're not allotted as many failures, but I think failing in something allows you to critically think on what led to that failure, whether it be personal choices or stuff that was out of your control, and to maybe be more proactive next time around and analyze and see like what from A led to B, what can I do differently to get to A to B next time.
Right. Yeah. You think about it, if you're shooting a bank shot in basketball and you look at that square up there and you shoot it and you miss the square, well, you got to hit the square. That's going to give you a chance to go in. But sometimes you hit the square, it doesn't go in. So is the angle? Was it too hard? And again, like you said, you learn going forward. This guy, Jersey behind me, Joe Montana, I got to work with him, and he said, fail fast, fail forward. The really good ones, they learn quickly. They can reset and go forward. If you're playing football in the 80s, you got 30 seconds to reset, call the new play, fix your face mask and go out there so the 300-pounder doesn't run you over again, right? In life, it's interesting because I think that's where there's so many lessons that can be learned. But the bottom line is, it really comes back to what Tom Selleck said about individual accountability. Coach Wooden said, failure is never fatal until you blame someone else, right? So being able to have the individual accountability as we go through this process and learning how to develop and go forward. As an entrepreneur myself, there's an evaluation that we use at the National Academy of Athletics to talk about. By the way, if you're a Parks and Rec manager, you might want to steal these, and it's a free gift, so take it away, right? Or anybody across the board, or dealing with kids, right? And so there's 3 components we look at, and one is was that a problem of motivation? Were you properly motivated to get the job done, to be successful, whatever it was? Was it evaluation? Did you see the value in the tasks that we're asking you to do? And then the last one, or was there confusion? You're not sure, right? So motivation, valuation, or confusion. If you think about that as you go through life, Adam, and you're managing folks and something comes up, you look, it's usually one of those 3 things, right?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. And so I've spent my life since running my first camp in 1983 with Magic Johnson back in Los Angeles, and stealing the best from all these people to create a formula as to how we go forward. So, do you have a playbook? Now you've been in Parks and Rec for more than a couple weeks. Does Parks and Rec, does your location, your what you do they have a playbook? Do they say, here's the playbook, this is what you use, Adam, or how does that work for you guys?
I can say, there can be a foundation in place from when you enter a new job, whether opening a facility, coming in as someone who someone had done it previously.
Yeah.
There's always an opportunity to improve things. So, short answer, yes and no. I don't think there is a playbook per se, but I think you take your past experience and help you form how you make the plays in your own playbook, and then I can take my current playbook, and when I transition to something new, I can take those plays and help me adapt to a new environment.
Refresh, yeah. So are you? I always love learning from my last failure or success, because to make it sustainable is the key, right?
Yeah.
If you have a league in your facility and you got 240 kids playing and that's your number, you want to do that again, right? And we know that part of that in Parks and Recreation, and I believe that recreational sports has been kind of undervalued for the last decade, particularly since last 5-6 years, right? I feel like the lessons the kids learn and the ability to play freely and everybody gets a chance to play, and the affordability is so valuable. And yet somehow we've kind of lost our way as a country, because we're focusing on, but if my child specializes, or if they play at the highest club, or they get after there, we have a better chance of them playing college or getting paid to play. And like you said, that probably is not going to happen for most, right? So how do you do that with your facility, right? You guys, actually, maybe let's step back. Tell me a little bit about what you manage. I think that's important, so maybe people understand
Yep.
what you kind of got there, what's happening.
Yeah, so I oversee a field house in the Denver metro area, and we have one large multi-purpose field that can be divvied up between full field soccer, two half fields where we do modified 7v7 soccer. We can do flag football, and then also lacrosse as well.
And so what you do is, for those that don't know, it should be self-explanatory. There's the quote unquote the contractor version, which is you have the space and you charge an hourly to use the field or court. And then there's the partnership model, which is you bring in somebody, right, that's not going to just rent it. Everyone spoke. They rent it, and they're going to be a community partner or a contractor, and they're going to run the program in partnership with you guys, right? Those are the two main ways. And then the third way is that you actually run them in-house, right? Is that kind of your model?
Yep.
Yeah. And when you have people that are in the Parks and Rec space, I think it's very important that we have clarity around this. Are we running this program as a break even or cost recovery, where we want to provide the service to everybody, Adam, and as long as we break even and cover all our expenses, we're good? Is this a subsidized program, meaning, man, we really need this, so the city or municipality or community partner is actually going to fund the program, even if it's not there, so we can cover that? Or is it a profit center where we want to run the program and make a profit that can go so we can use those funds to cover other, right? So those are the three. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I would say, it can be a mixture of the three. In my time in Parks and Rec, there's going to be areas within Parks and Rec that are going to make money that end up subsidizing other areas of
Right.
Parks and Rec. So, for example, I opened up an esports venue previously with my previous employer, and it was a community-based program. It wasn't geared towards making money. It was in a lower served community.
Yeah.
And the purpose of that program was to give back to the community by providing a safe place to gather,
Right.
socialize, and be safe. So, to go back, it can be all three. It just varies depending on what area of Parks and Rec you're in.
Well, and I think, Adam, if you think about it, it also varies based on what the community needs are and what's already being served. Sometimes I don't want to call people out, but some parks and recreations I've seen, they kind of cop out. If I went to you and said, Adam, the club is covering soccer, so you don't have to run soccer. But then you find out after really looking at it that you're giving the field space up for the rental, but the club is not getting the average little kid to play. They're just getting the ones that can afford to play, yep, or the elite. Then you're really not serving your community, right? And I feel like we've allowed that to be kind of the norm. Instead of like, what I love what you're doing is you're going, no, we're gonna manage this program. We're gonna run this program. Whether you bring a community partner like the National Academy of Athletics and we partner together to run the program because we can help with the staffing and the curriculum and all those factors, or whether you do it on your own, right? Either way, and it doesn't mean that club is bad or travel is bad. It just means how do we do a better job of serving the community as a whole, right?
I'm in agreement with that. I think, obviously, like you said, club is great, but I think there's a larger portion of the community that's at that rec level, and right, oftentimes can be neglected.
Yeah, I remember when I came up and I played 3 sports all the way through, and then but I didn't play AAU basketball until my senior year, summer of my senior in high school. That's the first time I played anything like that. And I think that if, there's a group out of a state that begins with a T and has an X in it, you can, figure that one out for yourselves, guys. But the group was telling me they got an elite travel club that will go to 6 states over the summer to play soccer competitive. And it's going to be great and the whole thing. And wow, man, that's incredible, Yes, and these 8-year-old soccer players that are, I don't know if I get the value in that, Great, you may go to 6 states and have a nice vacation if that's the case, but I'm not sure as a Parks and Rec that I see the value in that. Where's your mindset on that? And I'm trying not to be judgy, but where's your mindset?
Again, I think it has its pros and cons. I mean, obviously, usually parents that are paying for club, they want their child to excel into the sport, and they want them to possibly go to college, which is great aspirations. But I think even when they're at the club level, they're still making core memories for their children. With the travel, the amount of time they're spending with their kids,
right?
And which is a sacrifice with parenting, like. Having weekend sports, it's a lot. It's a lot having to commit like every Saturday morning to soccer, baseball, football, and stuff. So I think I think the pros can outweigh the cons with it, and you want your child to be happy, and right, you're pushing for them to excel into something hopefully they love. Obviously, that's not the case all the time. Sometimes there's parents that maybe that are living through their kids because maybe they didn't get that opportunity. You always want your kid to have better than you did. But I think the pros outweigh the cons for even at the club level, that you're wanting your kid to stay busy, stay out of trouble, and doing something that they love doing, and you're willing to sacrifice, financially and your time, maybe as a family, and that's how you bond as a family, maybe through traveling with sports. I have lots of colleagues that work in education, and their kids play competitive softball, and they travel all the summer. And they love it. It's part of their family.
It's a way of life, right? It's a way of life.
Yes.
Yeah. I guess the deal is to find the balance between the two, and make sure that we're not sacrificing the mass of kids that we need to play sports to just get out there and try it, right? The tri-athletes, TRY athletes, just go out there and try it, versus the ones that are really focused on it. And as long as the kids are into it and excited about it and they want to do it, right, then that's a good way to go after for sure. So, all right, we're coming up on the break. Sherry, we're going to ask you to run the spots for us. And then when we come back out of this, we're going to talk a little bit more about technology and kind of how that has come in, and see if there's any changes, especially as Adam's managing the facility, because I got to imagine there's a lot to juggle. So, Sherry, go ahead and run those spots if you would, and we'll be right back.
When you invest in our high-performance LED sports arena lights, you're not just upgrading your facilities, you're helping us illuminate the untold stories of parks and recreation communities. Every purchase directly supports the Daily Parks and Rec Show, a media platform on a mission to celebrate the heart and soul of our local parks and programs. From after-school activities to summer leagues, these spaces shape lives, and their stories deserve to be told. Why your support matters. Capturing community impact. Your contribution helps us assemble a talented team of digital artists, storytellers, and filmmakers to create compelling videos, articles, and short films that spotlight how Parks and Rec programs change lives. Sharing untold stories. From a child's first home run to lifelong friendships forged on the court, we'll document these priceless moments and share them with the world. Inspiring the next generation. By highlighting the joy, inclusivity, and opportunities found in our parks, we foster a deeper appreciation for these vital community spaces. Light up arenas, brighten futures. Your choice to install LED sports arena lights isn't just a smart investment in energy efficiency and performance, it's an investment in stories that deserve to be told. Be part of the story. Take action today. Purchase LED sports arena lights and help us shine a spotlight on the heartwarming stories that define our parks and communities. Contact us now to learn more about our products and how your support fuels the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Together, we'll shine a light on the moments that matter most.
Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product? Growing your presence in public spaces? Targeting cities, counties, or departments? DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion parks and rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move parks and rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.
Okay, we're back. You know what? The spots are getting really good. I'll tell you what, the DPRS team, boy, they're doing a great job. It really draws you in. It's not, like you see these TV commercials, you're like, yeah, whatever. But these like Super Bowl commercials, man. They really.
That was a good. That was good. Yeah. It was had my attention.
Good job, team. Nice job, Sherry. Be sure to tell Craig and everybody good work. So let's talk about tech for a second. I'm curious. If you're managing a facility, and you don't necessarily need to name the brand you use, because I don't want anybody to get upside down or good than that. But do you use an app, or is it a CRM, or what do you guys use to manage, and how does that work for you? Because I got to imagine whether you started this as your background and now you're trying to manage all these programs and facilities and that. How do you manage all those? Is it one platform? Is it several? How does that work for you guys?
We use two different ones. Working in athletics, we use a platform that kind of is all hub for creating rosters, taking payments, creating schedules, and then we have the more Parks and Rec platform that we use for the entire Parks and Rec district, and that's kind of separate because the Parks and Rec district doesn't really have that software, doesn't have that athletics portion that's needed to run a successful sports program.
I'll tell you, if you're an entrepreneur out there, if you could come up with one platform that could do all of this, right, Adam? Maybe we should invent that, right?
What a great idea to me.
Yeah, we have a great community partner, Activity Hero, that does a lot of work for us, that helps us out there, and it's great because the reporting and the tracking, all those things is wonderful. And I'm sure there's lots of others that have a piece of those. But being able to have people you can work with and count on is such a big piece of it. Are you finding that now with technology in your facility? And again, this is kind of a thing that I went and watched some kids play not too long ago, and in the gym there's a camera at the far end, and basically every high school game they can go to in California, you can go to this website and you can actually watch the game streaming. Do you guys have something like that?
No, not at my facility. There are groups that utilize the facility that use technology like that. Usually, it's a big tripod that they put that raises up pretty high,
Yeah.
and they can stream. They can record their practices, but at the facility, we don't utilize any of that for privacy concerns.
Right. Yeah. That's what I was kind of thinking about. But I guess if you're playing at a public high school, then guess what? That's what's going on. Yeah. There are some differences that I think are important between when you look at things like, the public and private partnerships and how those work and the contracts. I tell everybody, and we've got over 350 municipalities we work with every year. And literally it's 350 government contracts, and you got to be able to dot your I's and cross your T's. My attorney once said, "Hey, Aaron, they've gotten so big, we're going to start charging you by the pound now when we look at these contracts." Right? I don't know about you guys, but it's gotten nuts, right? And not just the liability, and then who manages the data and the software and the registration, all that. Do you guys allow, if someone runs a program with you guys, do you guys take the registration, or do you outsource that? How does that work?
It depends. It varies case to case. Usually we try to push to have the group do it, but it just depends on what makes more sense.
Yeah. I think it's important for the community partners, for the vendors, for the contractors, for the, we like to call ourselves community partners with this, but for us to do the registration process, a lot of it is because then we have a relationship with the clients, and that way we get the chance to deal with the challenges and the headaches and everything, make your job easier. Because I believe, if you're looking at running youth sports in a facility, one of the big things is to make it as easy as possible so that Adam and his team can do everything else they need to do. Because trust me, you got a lot to deal with. I used to have a club called University of Sports. It was one of the first of its kind, long time ago, indoor sports complex that had the soccer fields, the basketball courts, the weight room, the dance studio, the massage. I mean, we had it all in there. So, it was way back in the day in Northern California. And I just remember trying to fill those things up. You guys have 7-day-a-week operations?
Yes. Yeah, 7 days a week.
So let's talk about staffing for a second. There's a lot of people in the sphere of Parks and Recreation that are having challenge in getting staffing. How's that working for you guys?
It can be challenging at times, because obviously, a government entity versus a private entity operates two completely different ways, and so there's a way on how much you can pay on how you hire people, what they can get in return for their time and value. I would say I haven't really ever struggled with hiring anybody. I think the big thing is when you supervise somebody is empowering them to make their own decisions and giving them the trust and the respect that they need to do their job fully.
Yeah. I do a talk which is basically helping. Actually, in California, CPRS, I'll be doing it, which is talking about how to get full-time engagement from your part-time employees, right? And you just said it, right? Is making them feel a part of something bigger than themselves, right? And I will tell, if you're a municipality out there, when you pay someone $1, you've got PERS and all the other factors that you gotta deal with. When it's a contracted scenario, we take care of all that stuff. So there is an advantage to outsourcing. I don't know if that's the right word, but to outsourcing that way and going with it. How many would you say percentage-wise of programs in your facility? We've got 7 days a week, and looking at that, how many percentage-wise are you 50-50 in-house, 50 outside, or how does that work?
I'd say we do we do a lot of internal programming.
Mhm.
Again, giving back to the community and
Yeah.
offering a good community resource for the facility since working as a special ops district, we have to give back to the community. And then it's a mixture of rentals, and then it's a mixture of like community partners, like a vendor per
Got it.
se. So I'd say it depends on time during the year, but I'd say at least probably at least 50% is internal program, and then 50% could be rentals or.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. I've met some cities. We've walked in and they got a new director that is, the person has retired, and they got a new person just came from Waterworks who's taken over and said, I can't run any of this or run the whole thing for us. And we're literally running every sports in the city, for them on the rec space. And then there's others that just need a little bit here and a little bit there. And I think what's great is if you get good community partners and someone like yourself that's open and saying, okay, we want to serve the community as best we can. So what's the right fit,
Yeah.
right? To get the program and services that's available, right? It's a big part of that.
Yeah, I think when you outsource it, like you said, the word outsource, that there's a lot you can't control, but when you are running a program internally, obviously there's higher expenses with doing it internally. There's a lot more
Right.
stuff you have to deal with. But I think when you run something internally yourself, you have a lot more power on you have more control over the product versus
Mm.
outsourcing it to a vendor.
So I believe not the exact opposite. I believe if we contract with you, you got your thumb on me, and I got to make sure that I live up to your standard. What I like about that, like at the National Cap Athletics, I can give you 14 different sports with one contract, one contact person, us, and one set of insurance. And so it's like, wait a second, you can get, hey Aaron, we need this, we need more of this, and what's going on. So I guess it does depend on the community partner that you're working with, right? So
Yeah.
give me a couple ideas, just in case you're a vendor out there or Parks and Rec person looking to potentially. I'm not going to go away from outsource. I'm going to go with community partner. If you're looking to partner with a community partner to bring more or something different, what would you say are 2 or 3 things that you look for out of a community partner or a contractor?
I would say, there's obviously everyone wants a piece of the pie. I think if you approach any Parks and Rec department, you need to stand out from your competitors. I think that's the biggest thing, and you need to bring as much value to the table as possible and show what makes you different from a competitor. I've seen it over the last 8 years where everyone wants to partner with the Parks and Rec department, whether it be municipality, special ops district. But then when you ask more details and stuff, they're just it's the same. It's not anything different. I think those who genuinely make the effort and time to stand out from their competitors are the ones that excel and have more partnerships with Parks and Rec departments.
Right. Yeah, that's important. Well, let's talk about marketing for a second. So I have heard some complaints, not at all geared towards us, but I've heard some complaints that someone that is contracting with them then expects you to market everything and just fill up the program, and they just show up and run it. And obviously, that's not a real good partnership. What's the marketing look like for you guys? How does that work?
I think it depends on the capabilities of a certain Parks and Rec department. So we're fortunate that we have a marketing department for our district, and it depends on the avenue of what target you're trying to reach. Depending on if it's whether it's Gen Z or it's millennial parents, there's going to be a different reach with the business with the private entity versus a Parks and Rec. Like a Parks and Rec can only outreach so much. Sometimes it really needs to be a culmination of the two to really reach as much as possible. So I think it's a blended of both entities being able to market to the target audience.
I would agree with that. I think we have an entire marketing team, and we'll create flyers based on what you need and be able to help deliver social media, signs, banners, whatever. And like you said, I think together everyone achieves more. If we're working together, it's gonna get a larger audience to be able to make that happen, right? I mean, that's the way to do it. Are you feeling like you're using your facility if you have 320 hours a week of available space? Are you feeling you're utilizing that as much as possible, or do you feel like there's certain times 9 to 10 p.m. is probably not going to be as desired? But the other challenge that I remember was, what are you doing during the day when the kids are in school? Right? Are you taking the fields and adding a yoga class, or are you changing? Like, how creative do you have to be to fill those spots up?
I definitely think it takes some creativity. Um, I think the biggest thing is to think outside of the box and how do you bring people to the door, whether that be offering, something that's not provided in the whatever area you're located in,
Yeah.
meeting maybe a new part of the community that maybe hasn't had that resource to be able, like, you know, I know a lot of rec centers utilize, homeschooling is very big right now, and utilizing turf space for homeschooling or partnershiping with a hybrid school is huge right now. So that I think during the day, is helping our youth, and it's also helping parents out as as uh, as a place for them to let their kids, play some sports and get active when
Right.
they,
Yeah.
especially during the wintertime.
Yeah, and I love that because actually nationally, I was just at a conference. Uh, Homeschool is the largest growing sector in the school space.
Yes.
So the ability to go in and provide physical education, as it were, right, in partnership with you guys, I would think, especially if there's a homeschool group in Denver area, they'd go, oh, this is great. I can come in and do physical education with my kids, whether they do it together or the kids are down there and the parents get to sit up and have a cup of coffee or whatever it is in your and just enjoy life for a minute, right?
Yep.
Yeah. That's great. And it's such an important piece because if you are homeschooling out there, the social emotional components that can be learned through sports are so important because if you find yourself in a homeschool environment or any small school environment that you're not getting the opportunity to learn all these other factors by like you said earlier, just playing with different kids from different backgrounds and learning empathy and doing together. I feel like, since we started working remote, and then we haven't really gone back fully, not just us, but everybody in the nation. I feel like we're losing a little bit of that. Adam, like if you run into people every single day in different colors and different walks of life and different backgrounds, you're gonna learn empathy. You're gonna learn to get along. You're gonna learn to work together, right?
Yeah. I mean, I personally, the I enjoy working in the office. When COVID hit, there was a time where, working remote just because there's so many unknowns. But 5 years later now, I can see, me personally. I think it's important to have that face to face. Obviously each part of the working force is different, but in Parks and Rec especially, having that face to face, especially with what I do, you have to have it. I couldn't do my job if I was working from home 3 days a week. I honestly, I couldn't, I feel like I couldn't support my staff appropriately. I couldn't check in with my part time staff during the evenings and community, especially members of the community. I have people that drop in on me all the time asking questions about the facility, about what programs are offered in the Denver metro area. And I couldn't do that if I was
Yeah,
at home in an office. So I think,
yeah,
especially in Parks and Rec, that face to face just goes, that customer service aspect goes such a long way. That's one of the main things I love about my job is being able to help people out and educate them about Parks and Rec and just, what can be offered to the community.
yeah. Yeah, I'm big on, can't we all get along and let's work together without getting political or socially whatever. But realistically, what we learned in school, we learned in groups, we learned in work together. There's a community that's built, and right, you're in community recreation. What can we do to kind of keep building that up? Do you do special events in your facility, like whether it's sports or anything? Do you do like big, let's say, movies in the park, quote unquote, that's on your grass field or anything
Uh,
like that?
uh, Not really per se. I've partnered with local sports organizations, and they've held, like community events and stuff. And I've hosted community events over the last 2 years here. It's It just depends. You know, with the field house, it's not the ideal spot for stuff like that. But we do when I can, we do a local we do probably like 2 community events a year.
Yeah. Okay. I was just kind of thinking, like, I mean, I've done down in San Jose, I've done some coaches clinics and trainings that were like, let's say you had a bunch of little leagues in the Denver region, right? And
Yeah.
then we partnered with you to put on a coaches training for those parent volunteer coaches, and to bring them in and give them some sort of something like that. That'd be kind of a cool event, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I know we do, we do that at other facilities within the district of offering that. So it just depends on each facility operates differently, but we do like soccer, we do like officials trainings, that sort of thing. And there are groups that do utilize the space for something like that for training with kids, football, soccer, lacrosse.
So it's an interesting because there used to be a lot more joint use agreements between schools and Parks and Recreations, and this is before your time in Parks and Rec. But us old guys remember these, and a lot of those joint use agreements have kind of dried up. I'm wondering in your case, because do you control the facility in the sense that obviously you've got a team and you say this is what we're going to do, and we go, where if you're a municipality that works with schools, sometimes you're like, wait a second, we got to kind of negotiate and wait for the opportunity based on the school facility, right? Where you guys, you get to say no or go pretty much for your own facility, right?
It depends. I do overseeing the facility. Those user agreements still do exist in my experience, and they do. It's a lot of give and pull. You give to the school district gives back to you. So it depends on the facility. But I have experienced that in the past,
Okay.
that the schools sometimes can take more than they give back to a Parks and Rec, and then it can be vice versa as well.
Right.
Usually, like for basketball instance, a lot of Parks and Rec departments have to utilize local schools for their practices because they just don't have the
Right.
they don't have the internal capacity to host practice 5 days a week for 40, 50 different teams within the program. So they have to reach out to the schools who's our community partner.
Right.
Again, like schools are giving a lot of trust into a Parks and Rec department, and you're like, hey, we need you to make sure your coaches are following our guidelines at the school,
Right.
safety, not leaving doors open, that sort of thing. So again, those, I would say, larger municipalities probably still utilize, in my experience, local schools, and local schools also utilize more for probably like outdoor parks, like fields and stuff.
Right.
Utilize the schools need the Parks and Rec department's field space to help run their stuff. In my experience,
In the most, if not all, of the municipalities, cities we work with, we find the ones that have a really good relationship with the schools, it's a winner. If Adam,
Yes.
if you're running a program at your facility and you're going to fill it up with their kids, and they put a flyer out that you create and give them, and they get out to their students, you know what? That's going to be a pretty good program.
Yes.
If they come to you and go, yeah, you can't advertise the program, even though we're, working with the city, and that's just not going to be right. So really, I feel that the joint use agreements, the partnerships, the working together, because we're all serving the same kids. And by the way, if you've got a healthy Parks and Recreation department, because that is the core, and a healthy school, those kids aren't getting in trouble. Or if they are, there's a lot less of them that are getting in trouble, right? Right? They're unplugging the screen. They're not going out and getting guns and doing stuff we don't want them to do. They're not spray painting buildings. They're engaged in healthy activities, right?
Yep, I agree. I think when you have a strong community, it does help with keep leading the youth in the correct path.
Yeah, I definitely get that. So let me ask you, if you were designing a perfect facility, you got your facility now, right? What would be things, and no one's listening, so you can just tell me, but what do you want more in your facility? What facility space would you like more, right? And like if I gave you magic wand and you're good to go, what would you want?
Let's see. I think it'd be I think it'd be a rec center. It'd be a rec center field house hybrid that gives to not just the youth, it gives to the adult communities as well. Because I think when you can bring those two together, I think it goes a long way. I would have basketball gyms. I would have probably 2 or 3 multi-purpose fields lined for various sports. I would have a championship baseball field as well, some hitting and pitching tunnels as well, a pool, a track, a restaurant for and a lounge area for parents while their kids are participating in league play or rental groups,
Right.
and then I would have a workout area for the other community members that can it could be like the all hub stop. And then also too, esports, for instance, is near and dear to my heart. I think I would also have an esports venue in there as well because esports is growing as one of the most popular sports. Some people argue it's not a sport, but the dedication with something like that, it's comparable to other activities that people maybe want to constitute as sport.
They may not be moving their body as much, but they're using their mind.
Yeah, I mean, again, with youth sports, there's that social aspect that's working together as a team that you can't learn in other aspects, and esports teaches that. It's just a different. It's different parts of the community. It's an esports athlete isn't your typical athlete. They may not get along with the football players, the baseball players, and stuff, and I've been around that community for a very long time, and I've some of the best kids I've ever met working in education. I ran a esports club at a middle school, high school, and those are some of the best kids I ever worked with. They were amazing kids.
But I love that, and good for you for creating a platform and a place for them to feel like they belong.
Yeah.
So it's not isolated. And I love if they were to go to a space in your building. Again, community, they're on their screen, but there's 6 or 8 or 10 or 50 of them in a room. There's a community that's built, and that's such a big part of it. All right, I want to pivot real quick. We only got a couple minutes left, but I want to talk about camps and clinics and instruction. I think that if you got a facility, in my opinion, and again, it's funny because the facility you just talked about is what I used to have, right? I had the 2 indoor soccer, the 2 basketball courts, I had the weight room, I had a cafe for the parents. I had a day spa in there, so the parents.
Oh, wow.
I mean, we had it all going back in the day. But enough about University of Sports. Let's talk about camps and clinics real quick. What do you guys do in terms of instruction based programming? Do you run camps and clinics, or how does that work for you guys?
Yeah, we do. It's a variety between basketball, baseball, soccer, like football. It just depends on the time of the year.
Yeah.
But I think there's a opportunity for every sport within the camp environment.
It's great. I'm a firm believer, and everybody knows I'm a camp guy. Right? 2 million kids have come through my program since I started doing this, so it's been a minute, right? But I believe that if you're going to play in a youth league, you should have your kid go to a camp or clinic prior to playing in the league. I think the fundamentals that they can learn and the basics and the boundaries and the concepts and understanding, they develop a sense of confidence when they walk back out there. And now they're going to practice for your league you're going to run. It can be a game changer, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I'm in agreement with that, because then also too, it gives them an opportunity to be exposed to the sport, and you can see, is it something that they're actually going to be interested in? So my 4-year-old, for instance, baseball is not going to be his sport. The whole standing around and just, he was kicking dirt. Half the kids on the team that I coached, they were spinning in circles, kicking dirt. Other kids enjoyed it. He's doing soccer now, and he's one of those kids that he needs to be constantly moving and chasing something. So
I know. Not only know that, but my kids were the same. My son, holy moly, I get that. Man, well, I don't know about you, but time sure flies. We've wrapped into a whole hour show real quick. If anybody wants to learn from you or connect with you, Adam, is it LinkedIn? Is it social media? Like, where's the best way if they want to find out more? And maybe people have questions that are in the Parks and Rec space that want to learn. How would they get in touch with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn would probably be the best platform to reach out to me. I'm pretty active on there. I check it constantly. I like keeping in touch with other professionals on there. So just type in Adam Hamm, facility manager, and you'll probably find me.
And it's Hamm for those
Yep,
who know.
It's Hamm.
It's good, right, Adam?
Yeah, yes.
Adam. All right, everybody. Hey, Adam, I really appreciate you jumping in, and I'll see you when I get back into Denver, and look forward to working with you.
Yeah.
Everybody there. Hey, look, youth sports is something that is obviously near and dear to my heart, and I'm loving every week we get to talk to so many different people that have that same heart for kids, and that's what we're trying to go forward. So Youth Sports Mastery every week, where we get together and talk and help kids fall in love with playing sports, and help you as youth sports leaders to make a change out there in the kids. So I appreciate your time, Adam. Sherry, let's close it out, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks, everybody. See you, Adam.
Bye. Thanks, Aaron.
When we talk about essential services, what comes to mind? Police, firefighters, healthcare. But there's another essential service, often overlooked, yet always present: parks and recreation. Parks and Rec is health. It's the walking trail that lowers blood pressure, the recreation center where seniors fight isolation, the swim lessons that prevent tragedy before it happens. This isn't a luxury, it's a lifeline. Parks and Rec is safety. A playground instead of a street corner, a basketball court instead of trouble, a summer camp where every child belongs. It's not just about activity, it's about protection, prevention, and possibility. Parks and Rec is community, the festival that brings neighbors together, the cultural event that teaches respect and diversity, the open space where a city breathes. It builds bridges where division once stood. It gives people a reason to gather, to connect, to care. And Parks and Rec is economics. It strengthens property values. It drives tourism through events and trails. It saves on healthcare costs. Every dollar invested multiplies, feeding back into schools, into safety, into growth. Essential service is not just about survival, it's about thriving. And Parks and Recreation is where thriving begins. In wellness, in equity, in culture, and in joy. Parks and Rec isn't extra, it's essential. For our health, for our safety, for our communities, for our future. A message from the Parks and Recreation community. At DPRS Media Co., we believe Parks and Recreation isn't just a service, it's the heartbeat of our communities. We exist to honor the people, the vendors, and the leaders shaping the future of Parks and Rec. Our mission is simple: to tell their stories, highlight their careers, and celebrate their essential work. Our vision is bold: to be the trusted hub where leaders, vendors, and communities unite, inspiring innovation, sharing wisdom, and building a stronger, healthier nation. Through over 220 live shows and 6 weekly series, the Leadership Series, Facility Maintenance, Young Professionals Network, Youth Sports Mastery, The Rec Room, and Growing Leaders, plus our industry-leading newsletter, the weekly Parks and Rec Post, we're building a media platform made for the Parks and Rec community. And now, we're inviting strategic partners to co-create this story with us. As a partner, you'll gain 12 hours of annual live exposure with custom shows highlighting your expertise, polished 60-second promos refined for maximum impact, year-round visibility with dozens of replays across our media network, premium features in our newsletter, and amplified social media reach across LinkedIn, X, and Facebook. This is your chance to educate, inspire, and lead while connecting directly with the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. This is DPRS Media Co. Let's build the future of Parks and Rec together.